So I'd just like to explain a few additional rules which would be worth emphasising because it doesn't form part of the necessarily the sequential order of player aid card, and so it might just help to explain a couple of the extra parts of the game. So the first one I'd like to sort of talk about is the SHTF cards. Now, if you do get an SHTF card, what happens? We'll play it, for example, on this appendix, or this 35-year-old male who's got abdominal pain and recent vomiting. So that is a case in play at this point in time. Whoever's rolling, see whether they get a SHTF card, and as in point 2 of the player aid, may, for example, roll a 2. So in this case, 2 or less, so 2 or 1, therefore, would get an SHTF card. Now, what you do is you pick up the SHTF card and place it on the anaesthetic case itself. So, for example, in this case, the patient's developed bronchospasm. Now, you could talk about to the learners about, as the facilitator, ask them what they thought and what was the indication, what caused it, and how one would treat it and manage it, and then you can check whether you were on the right lines by going on the QR code and looking at the Quick Reference Handbook. So that's the sort of you do have to remember that you have to add the number of specified hours to the case. It's usually 1 or 2. So what you do is you take your doctor and you place it on the next hour up, and then it will continue to run. Now, I would recommend not having any more than one SHTF card, because otherwise it starts to compound and sound a bit ridiculous. It rarely does happen, but it can happen in some cases. So I just wouldn't roll a D20 for the next go if this is in play, if that makes any sense. So once you've got that one on, don't worry, you'll still roll an SHTF card for this card if it's still in play, and all the other cards, but I wouldn't roll another D20 dice for that to see whether you get another one, because it would just be probably not optimal and get a bit farcical. There are some extra rules in the back of the book which you can talk about with regards to that, and you can make up your own rules as well. So it's just thought processes there that you need to make sensible decisions before you start playing, really. The second thing is to talk about this consultant on call. So this consultant is an extra pair of hands. You can call in them anytime. It is preferential you call them when you need them, and this can form part of the gameplay. If you need an extra pair of hands, then the learners could practice an S-bar handover to the facilitator about how they discuss the situation with their consultants and ask them to come in. So that's one way you can incorporate them into it. And when they would ask that, hopefully the consultant would say yes. The facilitator would sort of have to discuss this and sort of talk about it. But then they get placed on the car. So for the next hour, when that moves in, when it says move the doctors, that doctor will be in. It has no special powers. It's just another pair of hands. Otherwise, it gets too complicated with game design. But that's just one way of thinking about it. There are some, again, additional rules that you can look in the back of the rule book with regards to what, we could make it that this consultant has special powers, but it's just a way of getting an extra pair of hands in the base sort of setting. So that's the way to do it. Then you have to decide as a team, when the acuity is gone down, you haven't got quite as many cards in your hand, and the consultant has finished the sorting everything out, I suppose. Then what you can do is you can decide as a team, or the learners decide when to send them back. So they would hopefully go back there, and then on the next go, when you move your doctors, they would go back to sleep. Another thing to talk about are that each one of these Bleep cards has a bottom here. They've got 2 numbers. Now, the first one's a unique identifier to that card. So, for example, this is a recovery issue of a 30-year-old female, IBDU, with lots of pain. This card number is 48. Now, this only allows me to communicate people about certain cards, or them to communicate me with certain cards. It just allows a way of tracking certain things. So, even if there's something silly as like a spelling mistake and you want to tell me about that, please just quote the ID card and then you can tell me if there's anything issue with that. I mean, I've been through it with a fine-tooth comb, but all these things, it's good to be able to track and understand where they are. The second number actually is how important or relatively how quickly does one how much priority has one case got over the other. Now it's just an indicator. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 generally can be handled over the next day. 1 needs to be played as soon as possible. So, for example, a Cat 1 C-section is a 1 here, and a Cat 4 Caesarean section is a 4. So it's just a way of, if someone isn't a anaesthetic consultant and wants to facilitate this game, although I've never had that situation, there is a way of doing that in a way that possibly, because some of the best facilitators don't need to know about any of the subjects in order to bring the best out of people and understand what's going on. So that is a way of them having some understanding of the clinical how quick something needs to be done, the relative acuity of each of the cases. So that is that. So look, this has just been a really quick whistle-stop run through, and if I hope it's been helpful. I think the most important thing really is to read the rule book and just get out and have a play with a couple of your colleagues before you start using it as something that's going to be a full educational device, because it's only going to be best if you understand and are able to get over the game mechanics and not that be part of that discovery with the people that you're educating. But yeah, have a go. Let me know how you get on. Really great from hearing from you. Cheers for having a go.